I'm Jarita Malik. I'm content writer for paper 13, that is on food additives, module 1. Today we will see what are food additives. I'll introduce about various types of food additives and the functions related to its addition in food. Now the question is, what we understand by food additives? Food we all know, that is what we eat. Now something over and above that is present in food, we can say some non-nutritive or maybe nutritive ingredient added in food which is not an intrinsic ingredient of food is considered as a food additive. So if we see in this chapter, we will see there are various functions of food additives. For a specific purpose, a food additive is being added to meet a specific requirement out of that food. So we'll start with history of food additives. Now we all know that food additives has been added since thousands of centuries. First reported adding of food additives were reported in 1500 BC, where colorings were added to foods. Then next was during 3rd century BC, Theophrastus, a Greek philosopher, reported the use of artificial flavorings in foods. 1st century AD, Pliny remarked on the use of animal fodder and chalk in making bread. Sodium chloride, or what we call common salt, has been added to foods as a preservative for thousands of years. And spices like nutmeg and cinnamon used to flavor foods have been sought after and traded throughout history. And there is a very interesting fact as well, that previously the traders were kidnapped not for ransom money or gold, but for spices. Now there are several definitions of food additives, and in general we can define food additives as: food additives may be defined as chemical substances which are deliberately added to foods in known and regulated quantities for the purpose of assisting in the processing of foods, preservation of foods, or in improving the flavor and texture or appearance of foods. Now food additives are in general not a major, or we can say primary constituent of food, and are usually used at a very small quantity. So this is a very important thing which should be kept in mind. Now definition as given by FAO, WHO. Food additives have been defined as non-nutritive substances which are added either intentionally to food, generally in small quantities, to improve their appearance, flavor, texture, or other secondary properties, or find their way otherwise into food during handling, processing, or distribution. Here it is very important to note that they have said food additives have been added to improve the properties of food. So in recent wordings, they have replaced improvement with reaction products from that compound, which is included in the definition, while the word improvement is not included. Okay, similarly, definition given by Codex Alimentarius Commission: food additives means any substance not normally consumed as a food by itself and not normally used as a typical ingredient of the food, whether or not it has a nutritive value, the intentional addition of which to food for technological, which includes organoleptic, purpose in the manufacture, processing, preparation, treatment, packing, transport, or handling such food results, or may be reasonably expected to result, which may be again directly or indirectly in it or its byproduct becoming a component or otherwise affecting the characteristics of such foods. So we can see food additive has a vast definition because it has vast functionality. Now we'll see categories of food additives. So we can segregate food additives into various different categories. Food additives may be preservatives. Second category is nutritional additives. Third category, they can be flavoring agents. Fourth, coloring agents, fifth, texturizing agents, or they can be miscellaneous additives. We all know what are preservatives. Preservatives are meant to preserve the quality of food for a longer period. So preservatives are again added in small quantity and the purpose is lengthening of the shelf life. Nutritional additives like calcium, which is enriched in many food products for the purpose of giving some nutritional value to that food. Flavoring agents, we know it is for the purpose of increasing the organoleptic property of that food. Then we have coloring agents. Again, as such, coloring agents doesn't have any taste, but it increases the aesthetic value of the food. The color gives a vision and the preference of that food increases. A very interesting category is texturizing agents. We all know stabilizers and emulsifiers. As for example, ice creams without stabilizers can never be a success. Then we have many miscellaneous additives, small additives, which may again be artificial or may be natural, which are added in small or bigger quantities in food products. Now we will differentiate between two different types of food additives, that is synthetic versus natural. Artificial or synthetic additives are synthetic substances that are added to food. Okay, so synthetic substances are not found in the natural environment. So they must be manufactured. So that is very important. While when we say natural additives, they are made from chemicals that are found naturally. So it is not synthesized, but those chemicals are naturally available from natural food source. Now, artificial additives is widespread, as we all know, in industrialized country because of mainly very important low cost production and ease of availability. But there are growing movements that advocate all natural, all organic foods. Now, certain artificial additives have been linked in research studies to cancer, digestive issues, and also behavioral effects. Hence, people want all natural food, all organic food, and less of artificial food additives. Now, we'll discuss different coding systems for food additives. We all know there are n number of food additives available in this whole environment, whole world. People are using many types of food additives, but yes, all are not safe. And also, the food additives addition should be again a limiting factor. You cannot add it at your own wish because their addition has to be regulated so that no malintentions are there in their addition to gain benefit for that particular product, especially in terms of money. For this purpose, E-numbers for coding a particular food additives, especially for the purpose of labeling that additive, has been evolved and developed by European Union, which is formerly European Economic Community. Here, they made a list which is updated on a regular basis and it includes those additives that are generally recognized as safe, that is GRAS certified within the member states, that is member states within the European countries, and allows foods to move from country to country within the European Union. Very important, nutrients are not included in the E system. Next coding system is International Numbering System, which in short is called INS system. This coding system is developed by Codex Alimentarius Commission Committee on Food Additives and Contaminants. Again, it is based on E system. The INS system is broader than E system and is intended as an identification system for food additives approved for use in one or more countries, not only in European countries. Nutrients are not included in E system, while INS system has larger category of the food additives included. The INS numbers are largely the same numbers used in E system without the E. As for example, it is E260 for acetic acid, while in INS system it is only 260. Okay, now why food additives? When we have so many controversies, there might be some very special functions that we see in food additives, and that's why they are being added. Let us see some of the beneficial functions of food additives. First is to enhance the shelf life of food. Second, to enhance the consumer's acceptability of the food. So, shelf life by the preservatives, and acceptability, we can see flavors, colors, etc. Third function is to reduce waste and improve yield of the product. Next is to facilitate preparation of food. There are many texturizing agents that are improving the quality of food as well as yield of food, and that's why it is facilitating preparation of food. Fifth function is to improve color and appearance of food, mainly imparted by many surface finishes, or you can say coloring agents. Next is to improve body and texture of food, very important. As for example, we have stabilizers, many texturizing agents which are improving the body and texture of foods. Very important function to improve flavor, or we can say aroma and taste of food. We all know a food is marketed on the basis of acceptance by the consumer, and for that purpose, flavor, or we can say taste of food is very important, and food additives play a very vital role in this matter. And finally, to improve and maintain the nutritive value of foods, for which we are adding many nutritive ingredients in our food products. Now, why we have regulations for addition of these additives? The most important aspect is to avoid adulteration. Now, some of the intentions, evil intentions, I should say, which could be there for by utilizing food additives, like to conceal or to hide damage, spoilage, etc. As for example, neutralizers are added in acidic milk, that is to hide poor quality of milk. Next is to adulterate food with cheaper material. Many times starch is added as an SNF source in milk. Then you can use food additives to cover up use of faulty ingredients. So flavors are added to mask the faulty ingredient bad qualities. Then you can disguise faulty process of manufacture. Same, if your process is not proper, food is not proper, you may add some food additives to improve the quality, seemingly to improve the quality, I should say. Then to replace lengthy and cumbersome process, so shortcut processes, like if we use cultures to acidify product, or direct addition of acid may shortcut a product process. Then to achieve desired effect in short time, okay, similar effect. And finally, to hide the adulteration of the foods. So many a times water is added in milk, and some SNF source like some carbohydrate may be added to conceal the fact that water is added and it is not detected during analysis. As a whole, still today's food industry cannot stay without food additives, especially with advent of newer products, ready to eat products. We need food additives, and we need food additives to get some benefits, and the major benefits of food additives are safer and more nutritious foods. We know a product is not localized nowadays. A product is marketed from one place to another place. For that purpose, again we need some shelf life. We need the product to be safe when it is consumed. So we may not know if the product is safe unless we had added some preservative and it is elongating its shelf life. Next benefit is greater choice of foods. Very important. Our ready to eat foods, different varieties, different flavors, different colors. Our preference changes every day, and we need a different product every day to satisfy our palate. So our food additives gives many choices for a variety of food products. And finally, to get lower priced foods. Obviously, we can use many food additives as mimetics. Example, fat mimetics are added. That will give you again a cheaper product, and also in terms of health benefit, you can say it is a low fat product. So to regularize the use of additives, some general principles we should follow, and these principles I have listed. It must be ascertained that the real need exists for the use. Then only it should be added. Food additive should not be added as such unless there is actual need for its use. Second, it does not cause any adverse physiological and harmful effects even upon regular consumption for a long period. So, lethal dose should be very, very high. So, the level added should not cross that lethal dose, and the level is safe for human consumption. Next, third point, it should not reduce the nutritive value of food. Okay, our food additives may be again nutritive in nature or non-nutritive in nature. If it is nutritive in nature, then it is increasing the nutrition value. But the non-nutritive food additives, if added, should not reduce the nutritive value of food. Very important. Fourth point, it should confirm the agreed specifications. In our country or in any country, to market a product, a labeled product, a packaged product, we need to follow the rules and regulations. As for example, we have Food Safety Standards Act in our country. Without following it, we should not sell any of our product. So food additives, whatever amount, maximum limit suggested by the act should be followed. And finally, where possible, legislation should define permissible maximum quantities of a given additive. Then only our addition will be in control. Some more principles which also should be followed. Like even when an additive is considered harmless, it seems advisable, or we should say it is desirable to use as little as possible of its consistent effect. So minimum possible food additives to get desired effect is always our desire. Next principle we'll follow will be all food additives should be kept under continuous observation and should be re-evaluated wherever necessary in light of changing conditions of use and new scientific information. So, we should always keep on checking the lethal dose, if it is harmful or safe, and then limits its usage in most of the food products. And again, addition of nutrients to food should not be left to the free initiative of the industry, but should in general be prohibited, and only in special cases should a dispensation of prohibition be given. Now, how to ascertain limits for addition of food additives? How much we should add? So, ascertaining the limits implies ascertaining the safety of the consumer. So, it should be limited with these points to be kept in mind. The estimated level of consumption of the food for which the additive is proposed, because along with the food, the additive is also being consumed. So, more the quantity of that food product being consumed, more the quantity of that food additive will be consumed. So, accordingly, our limit should be set so that it should never cross maximum safe limit of that food additive. Next is minimum levels in which animal studies produce deviations from the normal physiological behavior. So, the level should never be such that it will have any adverse effect even in animals. And finally, an adequate margin of safety to reduce risk to a minimum for any hazard to health in all groups of consumers. Now, we all know good manufacturing practices are being followed in most of the food industry. So, what is it? Now, good manufacturing practices, GMP in short, for food additives according to Codex General Standard, which implies all food additives subject to the provisions of this standard shall be used under the conditions of good manufacturing practice, which include the following. So, the listed principles or practices are being followed to consider a food additive to be under GMP. And they have listed the manufacturing practices. The first one is the quantity of the additive added to food shall be limited to the lowest possible level necessary to accomplish its desired effect. Next is the quantity of the additive that becomes a component of food as a result of its use in the manufacturing, processing, or packaging of a food, and which is not intended to accomplish any physical or other technical effect in the food itself, is reduced to the extent reasonably possible. And finally, the additive is prepared and handled in the same way as a food ingredient. So let us know some norms regarding labeling of food additives. We have few terms. One is label and the second term is labeling. Now what is label? Label includes any tag, brand, mark, pictorial or other descriptive matter written, painted, stenciled, marked, embossed or impressed on or attached to a container. And what is labeling? Labeling includes the label and any written, printed or graphic matter relating to and accompanying the food additives. However, the term labeling does not include bills, invoices and similar material which may accompany the food additives. It is very important to know that labeling is mandatory for food additives falling in the respective classes and appearing in lists of food additives permitted for use in foods. Generally, the respective class titles shall be used together with the specific names or recognized international numerical identifications. So it is must to label whatever food additive is being added in that particular food with the name of that food additive, type of that food additive or with the coding system. And one more important point to be kept in mind is for externally added flavors, flavoring substances or color, declaration must be made on the package as it is containing these additives specifying the type either natural, nature identical or synthetic. So, to conclude, we can say that food additives as such are inevitable part of processed food industry, especially for tailor-made foods, functional foods, extended shelf life foods, low calorie foods giving very major health benefits and low cost mimetics and many other foods. However, we also should look into the point that potential health hazards, especially of synthetic food additives, are matter of great concern. So there is need for production of safer food additives, or we can say natural, cost-effective food additives, and upgraded analytical techniques are also required to ascertain use of food additives under permissible limits. So, after studying this chapter, we can conclude that food additives are very important ingredients which should be added to food to get specific advantage. But yes, again the big question lies in the safety aspects of food additives, which should be again considered, moving with rules and regulations, analysis and seeing that these food additives are actually safe for consumption with proper intake value. Thank you.